Top 10 Most Hated Golden Age Celebrities of All Time and the Reasons Why. You grew up loving them. You trusted them. You believed they were icons of talent, class, and virtue. But what if I told you that some of Hollywood's most beloved Golden Age stars were actually the most hated people behind closed doors? These aren't rumors. These aren't internet myths. These are truths buried for decades, only revealed after they were gone. And trust me, you will never guess who ends up at number 3. Joan Crawford. The perfect mother Hollywood invented, and the nightmare it hid. Hollywood loved a comeback story. And Joan Crawford was the ultimate one. Born into poverty, she clawed her way into stardom with sheer willpower. Every role, every photo, every public appearance was carefully controlled. By the 1940s and 50s, Joan Crawford wasn't just a movie star. She was a symbol of discipline, elegance, and reinvention. When she won the Oscar for Mildred Pierce, America didn't just applaud her talent. It admired her strength. But Hollywood wanted more than a star. It wanted a mother. Studios staged the images meticulously: Christmas mornings with smiling children, Mother of the Year awards, glossy magazine spreads portraying Joan as the devoted matriarch who balanced fame and family flawlessly. To the public, she was proof that success and nurturing love could coexist. Behind closed doors, the story was very different. Inside that carefully curated mansion lived a woman obsessed with control, not just over her career, but over every inch of her children's lives. Perfection wasn't a goal. It was a demand. And any deviation, no matter how small, became a trigger. For years, the truth stayed buried. Studio fixers cleaned up the messes. Publicists rewrote reality. The machine worked flawlessly. Until Joan Crawford died. In 1978, her daughter Christina broke the silence with a memoir that detonated like a bomb, Mommy Dearest. What emerged wasn't a strict but loving parent. It was a portrait of terror. Midnight punishments. Violent rages. Psychological cruelty disguised as discipline. A household ruled by fear, where love was conditional and unpredictable. The most shocking part wasn't just the allegations. It was how believable they were. Hollywood had built Joan Crawford's image so perfectly that no one questioned it. Not fans, not journalists, not even those who suspected something was wrong. The illusion was stronger than the truth. When Mommy Dearest became a film, Joan Crawford's legacy collapsed in real time. The Oscar winner became a cultural symbol of maternal abuse. Her name stopped evoking glamour. It evoked dread. Some of her children disputed the story. Others confirmed it. But the damage was irreversible. Joan Crawford's tragedy isn't just about cruelty. It's about manufactured perfection. She lived in a system that rewarded appearances over humanity, control over compassion. And in trying to become the flawless image Hollywood demanded, she destroyed the very people she was supposed to protect. Her films still exist. Her performances are still studied. But her legacy carries a permanent shadow, a reminder that when image matters more than truth, the cost is almost always paid by those with the least power to escape. Hollywood didn't just create stars, it created masks. And sometimes, the most dangerous monsters are the ones hiding behind perfection. Bing Crosby, America's favorite father, and the home that feared him. For decades, Bing Crosby wasn't just a star. He was a feeling. His voice defined Christmas. White Christmas played in living rooms across America, wrapping families in warmth and nostalgia. On screen, Crosby was gentle, patient, and wise, the kind of father who smiled softly, never raised his voice, and always knew the right thing to say. In films like Going My Way and The Bells of St. Mary's, he became the ideal American dad. He didn't just entertain families. He represented them. But inside his own home, that image reportedly collapsed. Behind the relaxed charm and pipe-smoking calm lived a man whose version of fatherhood was built on fear, punishment, and emotional distance. For years, no one questioned it. Why would they? America trusted Bing Crosby. He sounded like comfort. He looked like decency. The truth emerged not through tabloids, but through blood. In 1983, Crosby's son Gary published a memoir titled Going My Own Way. What it described shocked the public. a childhood marked by beatings, humiliation, and relentless control. According to Gary, discipline wasn't corrective, it was ritualistic. Weekly weigh-ins. Physical punishment for minor infractions. A household where affection was scarce and obedience was everything. This wasn't a man occasionally losing his temper. This was a system. Gary described a father obsessed with authority who believed pain built character and fear maintained order. The gentle voice America loved, he claimed, rarely existed at home. Instead, there was coldness, silence, violence delivered with grim certainty. At first, some family members disputed his account. America wanted to believe the story was exaggerated, that the truth had to be softer than this. Then another son, Lindsay, confirmed it. Before his death, Lindsay described Bing Crosby as a brutal man, words that permanently fractured the image America had embraced for generations. The devastation wasn't just personal, it was cultural. Crosby wasn't known as a tough guy playing tough roles. He was known as kindness incarnate. His alleged abuse didn't contradict a reputation, it destroyed it. The betrayal felt intimate, as if a trusted voice had been lying all along. And yet, every December, the song still plays. That's the uncomfortable legacy of Bing Crosby. His voice continues to symbolize warmth and family unity, even as the story of his own family tells something far darker. A contradiction frozen in time, replayed every holiday season. Bing Crosby's story isn't just about abuse. It's about mythology. Hollywood sold America a father it desperately wanted to believe in, and ignored the warning signs that didn't fit the narrative. When the truth finally surfaced, it forced a painful reckoning. Sometimes, the most comforting voices are the ones hiding the most damage. Elia Kazan, the genius who chose survival and lost his soul. Elia Kazan didn't just direct films. He reshaped American cinema. Actors trusted him with their rawest emotions. Audiences felt the intensity in every frame. A Streetcar Named Desire, East of Eden, On the Waterfront. These weren't just movies, they were psychological earthquakes. Kazan was celebrated as a fearless artist who told uncomfortable truths. Then he faced one of his own. In the early 1950s, America was gripped by paranoia. The Cold War turned suspicion into a weapon, and Hollywood became a battlefield. Careers were destroyed not by crimes, but by accusations. Loyalty was tested in private rooms under bright lights. Kazan had once been a member of the Communist Party. When the House Un-American Activities Committee called him in, he understood the stakes immediately. Silence meant exile. Resistance meant oblivion. At first, he refused to talk. Then he went back. And this time, he named names. 8 former friends, colleagues, collaborators, people who had trusted him not just professionally, but personally. In one decision, Kazan saved his career and shattered others. Those he identified were blacklisted, unemployable, erased from the industry they helped build. What made the betrayal unforgivable wasn't just the testimony. It was the lack of remorse. Kazan never apologized. Instead, he defended himself publicly. He took out a newspaper ad justifying his choice. Years later, he doubled down in his autobiography, framing his decision as moral courage rather than fear. Then came On the Waterfront. The film tells the story of a man who informs on corrupt colleagues, and is portrayed as a hero for doing so. To many, it felt like Kazan rewriting history, turning betrayal into righteousness. Art became alibi. Decades passed. The wounds never healed. In 1999, when Kazan received an honorary Oscar, the room split in half. Some stood and applauded. Others sat frozen, arms crossed, refusing to clap. The applause was loud. The silence was louder. That moment captured his legacy perfectly. Elia Kazan remains one of the greatest directors in film history. His work is studied, revered, and celebrated. But his name carries an asterisk, a reminder that brilliance does not absolve betrayal. Kazan's story forces an uncomfortable question. What is the price of survival? Because when fear asks you to choose between your career and your conscience, the decision may keep you alive, but it can cost you everything else. Charlie Chaplin, the world's beloved clown, cast out by the country he entertained. For a time, Charlie Chaplin was the most loved man on earth. He didn't need dialogue. His face, his walk, his silence spoke to the entire world. The tramp crossed borders, languages, and ideologies. In the chaos of the early 20th century, Chaplin made humanity laugh at itself and feel less alone. He was cinema's first global god, but God's fall hardest. Behind the bowler hat and cane lived a man whose private life grew increasingly difficult to ignore. As Chaplin aged, his romantic interests did not. A pattern emerged: relationships with girls barely out of adolescence, marriages to teenagers, power imbalances disguised as love. At first, the public excused it. This was Hollywood. This was another era. Then the scandals piled up. In 1943, a paternity lawsuit dragged Chaplin into court and across front pages. Though later evidence suggested he was not the father, the damage was done. To many Americans, the charming clown now looked predatory, manipulative, and morally suspect. And then came politics. Chaplin's films had always sympathized with the poor, mocked authority, and questioned unchecked power. In the paranoia of the Cold War, that was enough. He never joined the Communist Party, but he refused to loudly deny communist sympathies, and in 1950s America, silence was guilt. The government took notice. In 1952, while Chaplin was traveling abroad, the US revoked his re-entry permit. The message was clear: the man who had entertained America for decades was no longer welcome. Chaplin chose not to fight. Instead, he settled in Switzerland, effectively exiled from the country where he built his legacy. The world's most famous entertainer became a man without a home. His films endured, but his public image never fully recovered. When Chaplin returned to the US in 1972 to accept an honorary Oscar, the standing ovation lasted 12 minutes. It was emotional, it was historic, and it was complicated, because applause could not erase the discomfort. The brilliance remained undeniable, but so did the troubling patterns. The artist who once symbolized innocence had forced the world to confront how easily charm can excuse harm. Charlie Chaplin's story isn't about cancellation. It's about contradiction. A man who made millions laugh while living a life that grew increasingly hard to defend. A reminder that universal love can turn into universal scrutiny, and that even icons are not exempt from moral reckoning. Rex Harrison, the gentleman on screen, and the tyrant everyone feared. Rex Harrison mastered the art of elegance. On screen, he was refinement incarnate, articulate, witty, impeccably dressed. In My Fair Lady, his Professor Henry Higgins was sharp but charming, difficult but irresistible. Audiences saw sophistication. Studios sold him as class. Behind the camera, there was no charm at all. Among actors and crew, Rex Harrison wasn't admired, he was endured. He carried himself not like a colleague, but like royalty surrounded by servants. Kindness was optional. Humiliation was routine. This wasn't a star having bad days. This was a system of cruelty. Harrison was infamous for targeting those with less power, especially women. During My Fair Lady, his treatment of Audrey Hepburn became legendary. He mocked her singing, undermined her confidence, treated her not as a co-star, but as an inconvenience. Hepburn, known for grace even under pressure, reportedly endured his contempt in silence. Julie Andrews, who had played Eliza Doolittle opposite him on Broadway, later described Harrison with brutal clarity, "The rudest man I ever worked with." Others echoed it. Harrison reduced co-stars to tears. He spoke to crew members as if they were beneath notice. His cruelty was selective and calculated, respectful to those above him, vicious to those who couldn't fight back. The stories grew darker. He allegedly urinated in co-stars' dressing rooms when displeased. He hurled insults casually. He referred to women with slurs and treated romantic partners with the same emotional violence he inflicted professionally. Multiple marriages ended amid accusations of manipulation and abuse. And yet, nothing stopped him. Awards kept coming. Roles kept arriving. Studios looked away. Directors tolerated him. The industry made a quiet calculation. His talent was worth the damage. That's what makes Rex Harrison's story so revealing. Unlike others whose reputations collapsed later, Harrison's behavior was well known in his lifetime. He wasn't protected by secrecy, he was protected by value. Hollywood didn't hide who he was. It simply decided it didn't matter. Rex Harrison died celebrated, not disgraced. But history has been less forgiving. Today, his legacy stands as a case study in how cruelty can thrive when talent is profitable, and how entire systems can normalize abuse by calling it genius or temperament. His story asks a hard question. How much harm are we willing to excuse for a great performance? Because when excellence becomes an alibi, humanity is always the first casualty. Gene Kelly, the man who made the world dance and pushed others to break. Gene Kelly looked like joy in motion. He smiled while he danced. He made gravity look optional. In films like Singin' in the Rain and An American in Paris, Kelly embodied optimism itself, athletic, radiant, unstoppable. To audiences, he wasn't just entertaining. He was uplifting. The kind of performer who made happiness look effortless. But behind the choreography was exhaustion. And behind the smile was control. Gene Kelly didn't believe in limits, especially other people's. As a dancer, he was relentless with himself. As a director and co-star, he expected everyone else to match that intensity, regardless of age, experience, or physical cost. Perfection wasn't encouraged. It was enforced. No story captures this better than Debbie Reynolds. At 19, with no formal dance training, Reynolds was cast opposite Kelly in Singin' in the Rain. She was eager, talented, and completely unprepared for the punishment that followed. Kelly rehearsed her relentlessly. Day after day, hour after hour. Mistakes weren't corrected gently. They were attacked. Reynolds later recalled dancing until her feet bled, crying from exhaustion, being carried off set because she could no longer stand. Kelly didn't slow down. He didn't soften. To him, pain was proof of commitment. And the result was extraordinary. Singin' in the Rain became one of the greatest musicals ever made. Reynolds delivered a performance that would define her career. The audience saw magic. What they didn't see was the cost. Kelly's defenders argue that he pushed everyone as hard as he pushed himself, and that's true. But it misses the point. Power changes everything. As both director and star, Kelly controlled the set, the schedule, and the future careers of those beneath him. When he demanded more, saying no wasn't an option. Other women echoed similar experiences. Grueling rehearsals, emotional pressure, endless repetition. Kelly's pursuit of brilliance often crossed the line into cruelty, especially toward young actresses who had little leverage to resist. For decades, this behavior was romanticized. Old-school discipline, artistic intensity, demanding genius. Today, it's being re-examined. Gene Kelly's legacy now sits in tension between two truths. His work is undeniably beautiful, and it was created in environments that broke people. The joy he projected on screen was often manufactured through suffering just out of frame. Kelly didn't intend to harm, but intention doesn't erase impact. His story forces us to reconsider how greatness is achieved and who pays for it. Because when art is built on silence, pain, and power imbalance, the applause can never tell the whole story. Beauty can be real and still be built on harm. And when perfection is demanded without mercy, someone always bleeds. John Wayne, the American hero, and the words that shattered the myth. For generations, John Wayne didn't just play heroes. He defined one. Tall, unyielding, morally certain, Wayne became the face of American strength. In westerns and war films, he embodied courage, patriotism, and righteous masculinity. To millions, he wasn't an actor. He was America itself, projected onto a movie screen. But myths depend on silence. And silence never lasts forever. Behind the swagger lived a man whose beliefs were far less heroic. Wayne was outspoken, unapologetic, and politically aggressive. For years, these views were softened, ignored, or reframed as products of a different time. Then the words resurfaced. In a 1971 interview, Wayne stated plainly that he believed in white supremacy. He justified the displacement of Native Americans. He framed inequality as deserved. These weren't vague remarks or misunderstood quotes. They were explicit, deliberate, and deeply revealing. Suddenly, the heroic image cracked. The man who symbolized American virtue was now being heard, clearly, saying who that virtue excluded. What once looked like confidence now read as cruelty. What once felt patriotic now sounded like dominance. And then there was the Oscars. In 1973, when Native American activist Sachin Littlefeather appeared on stage to decline Marlon Brando's award in protest of Hollywood's treatment of indigenous people, Wayne reportedly had to be physically restrained from dragging her off stage. Rage, not debate, was his response to being challenged. That moment changed how history would remember him. Wayne didn't see himself as a villain. He believed he was defending a version of America that was slipping away. But history doesn't preserve intention, it preserves impact. As cultural values evolved, Wayne's words grew heavier. Buildings bearing his name became controversial. Airports debated renaming. Audiences rewatched his films with new eyes, unable to separate the noble cowboy from the man who denied others dignity. John Wayne's legacy didn't collapse overnight. It eroded. His films remain influential. His presence still looms large. But the man behind the myth has become a symbol of how easily power disguises prejudice, and how dangerous it is when cultural icons are treated as moral authorities. Wayne's story isn't about judging the past by modern standards. It's about listening when the past speaks for itself. Because when someone tells you who they are, clearly, proudly, without apology, history eventually believes them. Hedda Hopper, the woman who never starred, and ruined the lives of those who did. Hedda Hopper was never a movie star. That fact haunted her. She tried, small roles, forgettable performances, a career that never took off. Hollywood didn't reject her loudly. It simply ignored her. And in that silence, something darker took shape. Power. Hopper reinvented herself not in front of the camera, but behind a typewriter. As a gossip columnist, she gained something far more dangerous than fame: control. At her peak, over 35 million Americans read her column. One paragraph from Hedda Hopper could launch a career, or end it overnight. And she knew it. Hopper didn't just report Hollywood. She policed it. She decided who was moral, who was American enough, who deserved success, and who needed to be punished. Her column became a weapon, aimed not at truth, but at compliance. Stars feared her more than studio heads. She trafficked in secrets, hidden pregnancies, extramarital affairs, political beliefs, and most terrifying of all, sexuality. In an era when being openly gay meant career annihilation, Hopper used implication as a threat. She rarely named names outright. She didn't need to. A whisper was enough. Hollywood lived under surveillance. During the Red Scare, Hopper became one of the loudest cheerleaders for the blacklist. She supported the House Un-American Activities Committee with zeal, praising those who informed and attacking those who resisted. Careers collapsed in the wake of her words, not because of evidence, but because she demanded ideological obedience. Her feuds were legendary. Katharine Hepburn became a favorite target. Independent, unmarried, unapologetic. Hopper mocked her clothing, her lifestyle, her refusal to conform. When Hepburn once passed Hopper in a restaurant and remarked, "I thought I smelled garbage," it wasn't bravado, it was survival. Hopper's cruelty was systematic, not emotional. She believed Hollywood needed discipline, that she was its moral guardian. That fear was justified if it kept the industry in line. What she called patriotism, others experienced as terror. And for decades it worked. Then the world changed. The studio system collapsed. Social norms shifted. Gossip lost its monopoly on power. When Hopper died in 1966, the silence that followed was revealing. There was no wave of affection, no industry-wide mourning, only relief. Hedda Hopper's legacy isn't about gossip. It's about what happens when resentment finds authority. She never created art, but she shaped lives, often by destroying them. A reminder that some of the most feared figures in history aren't the ones on stage, but the ones controlling the spotlight. Jerry Lewis, the man who made the world laugh and drove everyone away. For a long time, Jerry Lewis was joy. His face bent like rubber. His body moved like chaos given purpose. With Dean Martin and later on his own, Lewis became one of the most recognizable comedians on earth. Audiences didn't just laugh at him, they trusted him. He played innocence, vulnerability, the eternal child who never meant harm. Behind the laughter, however, was control. When Lewis split from Dean Martin, something shifted. No longer half of a partnership, he became the center of everything: director, writer, star, authority. And with total control came something darker: arrogance. On set, Lewis ruled absolutely. Crew members learned quickly not to question him. Actors were expected to obey, not collaborate. Lewis referred to himself as the total filmmaker, a title that left no room for dissent. If you challenged him, you were dismissed, sometimes publicly, sometimes cruelly. The humor stayed on screen. Off-screen, contempt took over. Journalists became targets. Lewis insulted interviewers, mocked questions, and abruptly ended conversations when his ego felt threatened. What once looked like comedic eccentricity hardened into something bitter and defensive. The lovable clown slowly revealed a man who could not tolerate being challenged. Then came the comments. As a new generation of comedians emerged, many of them women, Lewis didn't adapt. He attacked. In public interviews, he dismissed female comedians entirely, claiming women simply weren't funny. He even excluded legends like Lucille Ball. These weren't slips. He repeated them, doubled down, refused to apologize. The world moved forward. Jerry Lewis stayed behind. His legacy became tangled further by the Muscular Dystrophy Association telethons. For decades, Lewis raised billions for research, earning praise as a tireless advocate. But disability activists began pushing back, criticizing his portrayal of disabled people as objects of pity rather than dignity. Lewis didn't listen. When the MDA quietly removed him as host in 2011, he said nothing publicly, but those close to him described a man deeply resentful, isolated, and wounded. The spotlight he once controlled had moved on without him. By the end of his life, Jerry Lewis was no longer universally loved. He was tolerated, revered for his past, avoided in the present. His death in 2017 sparked reassessment, not just of his comedy, but of his character. Jerry Lewis didn't fall because society changed. He fell because he refused to. His story is a warning about success without humility, about what happens when applause becomes entitlement, and criticism feels like betrayal, because the same man who mastered laughter never learned how to listen. Frank Sinatra, the voice of romance, and the man who ruled through fear. Frank Sinatra didn't just sing songs. He owned emotions. His voice defined heartbreak, longing, swagger, and vulnerability. Albums like In the Wee Small Hours didn't just play, they confessed. To millions, Sinatra was romance itself. Sophisticated, sensitive, untouchable. But behind the microphone lived a man ruled by rage. Sinatra's temper was legendary, explosive, unpredictable, and often violent. He didn't argue. He retaliated. Journalists who crossed him were punched, threatened, blacklisted. Cameras were smashed. Words became fists. Fear followed him like an entourage. This wasn't rumor. It was policy. Sinatra believed loyalty was owed, not earned. He snapped his fingers to summon people. He demanded obedience from club owners, studio executives, even friends. Saying no to Frank Sinatra wasn't a disagreement, it was an act of defiance with consequences. Careers ended quietly after crossing him. Women paid a different price. His marriages, especially to Ava Gardner and later Mia Farrow, were marked by jealousy, control, and emotional volatility. Farrow later described feeling diminished, pressured to abandon her own career to orbit his. Sinatra didn't just want love, he wanted submission. And then there were the connections. Sinatra's friendships with known mob figures weren't distant or accidental. They were personal, public, persistent. From early performances in mob-controlled venues to later associations with notorious crime bosses, organized crime was woven into his world. Whether these relationships were protection, partnership, or proximity remains debated, but their existence is undeniable. Power protected him. Sinatra could be extraordinarily generous. He helped friends in need. He paid hospital bills. He opened doors. But generosity came with strings, loyalty expected, silence required. That's the contradiction at the heart of Frank Sinatra. He could sing vulnerability while practicing intimidation. He could express tenderness while ruling through fear. His art reached millions. His behavior damaged those closest to him. And yet, the voice endures. Even today, Sinatra's music plays in quiet rooms, late nights, and broken hearts. The sound remains beautiful. The man remains complicated. Frank Sinatra doesn't fit neatly into hero or villain. He exists in tension, a reminder that talent can coexist with cruelty, and that cultural giants often leave shadows as large as their light. Hollywood's golden age promised magic. Silver screens, perfect smiles, voices that felt like home. For decades, we believed the illusion because we wanted to. These stars weren't just entertainers, they were symbols. Parents. Ideals we trusted without question. But illusions don't disappear. What these stories reveal isn't just personal failure. It's a system built on silence, one that rewarded appearances, punished truth, and taught the world to confuse talent with virtue. A machine that protected power while hiding pain. Some of these figures were artists of extraordinary brilliance. Some were cruel. Most were both. And that contradiction is the point. Because the danger isn't that flawed people create great art. The danger is when we stop asking who they are because we love what they give us. When admiration becomes immunity. When fame becomes a shield. These legacies force an uncomfortable question we still avoid today. Can we love the art without worshiping the artist? Hollywood has changed. The cameras are smaller. The secrets leak faster. But the temptation remains the same. To excuse harm when genius is involved, to stay silent when success is profitable. So the next time you watch a classic film, listen to a familiar voice, or feel nostalgia pull you backward. Remember this. Behind every image is a human being. Behind every legend is a story we may not want to hear. And history doesn't ask us to cancel the past, only to see it clearly. Because when the lights go out, what remains isn't the myth. It's the truth.